Hey friends, so trying to get back to normal routine, which has been tricky. It's super cold here and I'm looking at my towers. The cucumbers and squash are done for sure. And I'm headed to the gym, and I'm actually not a morning person at all. But I wanted to give you guys an update. What are we on? I don't even know what day we're on, like 17 maybe? So easing back into normal this week. We're doing some things with the shed project. But originally when this whole thing started, it was like, this person needs help, this business needs help, this street needs help. And so we just ran back and forth, doing this, doing that, anything and everything. It was very chaotic, very fast. And then I shared with you guys, day 11, the military arrived. Day 12, they were on the ground. By day 13, it was starting to get pretty bureaucratic. That was also when the other organization that starts with an F came in town. So everything's kind of gotten bureaucratic, and like volunteers aren't working the way they were originally. So if at all, I mean, I guess there's some. Like if you had a friend you were working on, oh man, the gate's locked. And so it's just changed. And I think even a lot of people working in crews, like some of the head guys are volunteering, but they're paying their guys again because, you know, people got to work. That's where we're at. So I did notice like one area we were working on, originally there were so many volunteers of like dump trucks and things. They were turning people away, where I just saw a video last night with that. I haven't been back to that area because it has kind of established like a bureaucratic formula for what they're doing over there. I saw last night that they can't get any dump trucks to pull out the houses that have to be ripped out because people are concerned about liability. So I just thought that was such an interesting shift, how we went from like nobody cares, so many boots on the ground, to so quickly now we can't find people to get the work done, and there's concern about legal stuff. And I don't know what the connection there is. I have an idea what the connection there is, but that's what's going on there. We're just easing back into normal. I'm not a morning person. I love to go to the gym at night, but I was a homeschooler for 18 years. This is my first year retired from homeschooling. Both boys are in college, and my daughter decided she wanted a little more interaction. So she's at a very small private hybrid high school and goes 3 days a week and homeschools 2, does her work at home 2 days. And I've had to learn to be a morning person to get her all the way over there because it's really far. That area was hit really hard as well, not with water damage, but with wind, and schools are still not starting. There's talk that they might start the 28th. But then again, it keeps continually getting pushed back because there's no water. A lot of people still don't have power too. So we are well into this thing. And many people are being told they won't have power until Christmas or beyond. Some areas it's like a year. So that's pretty intense. So I know a lot of those places people just evacuated. So I'm back from the gym, pretty tired. That was the first morning I've gotten up to do that in a while. I did CrossFit. We do what's called a WOD, or the workout of the day. And that's a workout and a lifting session. And then I do personal training twice a week. So I do CrossFit 5 days, and I do an additional hour after CrossFit twice a week. So just easing back in. But I will say, totally whooped my butt. But I thought today I was going to make a soup. I'm not going to be able to make that. I'm actually going to be going to the shed shop, and I'm going to give you guys an update soon on what we're doing, but God's working. So I'm super excited to share. We do have 2 sheds placed, but now there's another ministry involved, and God's just working. So we're just giving space to that. But today things started picking up as far as needs and getting things in action. So I will be giving you guys an update soon. And thank you guys for all those who donated to that, because the Lord put a calling on my heart. You guys totally backed it financially. That allowed for proof of concept. And now the Lord's just kind of running with it. So gonna keep you posted. More details coming soon. But before I go, I have to put this food away. And so I have all these boxes around you guys. You can't see them, but this is my Azure standard order. And while we open these, I thought I would share just a little bit about my health journey and how I used food to pull out of modern medical systems and some of the things that I was able to, we have to be careful what we say in here, but just things I was able to manage naturally. And actually, I don't have those problems anymore just by changing my diet. Azure Standard, I will put a link below. It is, they're out of Oregon, and they make a lot of their own products, but they also buy a lot from local farms, some not local, and package them, and they test all their things. So if you get avocado oil on there, you can read how they do their testing so that we know it's pure. And they have really high standards as far as food quality. They have an About Me story, so you can look at that. They're 7-day Advents, I'm pretty sure. So they have really high standards as far as food quality goes. And I shared this on one of my other videos that recently that food goes, from the farms to distribution centers, and then grocery stores buy from those distribution centers. And I used to run a co-op and would buy from those to bypass the grocery store to save us money. This is kind of its own grocery store, and its own distribution center. There are no grocery stores. We just go directly to the website, purchase whatever we want, and then once a month, a big semi truck comes, and we all meet at one location, wherever your drop location is, and we unload and we take our food home. I'm the drop coordinator for our area, which just means I make sure to coordinate the drop. And it's amazing because we get to buy in bulk. These are the foods that I can't find at my grocery stores here. I would have to go to a Whole Foods, which is 45 minutes away, and Whole Foods has become so expensive. It's not even an option anymore. And then we had our natural grocery store in Marshall, and that was just to fill the gaps if I forgot something, because it's also very, very expensive there. But it is now completely destroyed. So staying on top of ordering my food is huge. Again, I'll put a link below. You don't have to pay a monthly. You don't have to buy a minimum. It's nothing like that. You just sign up, find a drop in your location, sign up, and then order or don't order, whatever you want. So I tend to buy in bulk. I've shared many times, we believe in preparedness. I keep a year's stock of everything we use in our inside pantry, and then I have a backup food storage outside of that for more long-term emergency type stuff. It's saved us a ton of money over the years because of inflation. I'm eating lentils right now from 2020, and the ones I was eating last year were from 2016. They don't go bad. Stored them proper. If you store them properly, I will talk about that in another video. It's something I'm going to cover in detail on my membership site too, just like the educational components, because it's really easy to organize information in there. But it saved us a ton of money, because what those things cost today versus what I paid for them in 2020 is just, it's actually unbelievable. It's really unbelievable. There was a guy who showed his Walmart cart, and it showed everything he ordered, and it was in 2020 or 2021, and he went to place that order again, and it was almost 4 times the cost. So inflation's through the roof. I don't have to tell you guys that. I know you feel it, and this just helps us. Not everything is cheaper there than maybe at your grocery store. There are a couple of things, like some of their organic cheeses I can occasionally find at our grocery store, a little bit less expensive, but for the most part, because I'm buying in bulk and the quality's better, and you can get raw cheeses and all sorts of things. So our first thing is salmon. So this is for my children. I eat a plant-based diet. I always have since I was 14. I've trailed off of it a couple of times trying to do something not plant-based, and it doesn't work for me. I thrive on a plant-based diet, so that's what I eat. My husband eats mostly plant-based, and the children like to have some seafood and pretty much beef. That's what they like. Okay, so we have wild salmon. So I bought this whole box. It's empty now because I had to get these in the freezer. It's a total of 10 pounds of salmon, and they were individual fillets, individually wrapped, which were a nice size. So I just stuck those in the freezer. That's great. This keeps us stocked up there, so I don't have to worry about fish for a long time. Rice. We are a rice-eating family, and rice can be, I know there's a lot of talk of like arsenic in rice. So it's important where you get it from, and you can read where the rice comes from and how it's grown and the sustainability of the practices being used and things like that. Oh, I just ripped it. Okay, this is the one we're gonna eat because I just ripped it. But I got 2 big bags of rice. These are 25 pounds. So you can buy 5 pounds, 10 pounds, 50 pounds, thousands of pounds of food just based on your needs. So you don't have to buy everything in bulk, but we go through a lot of rice in this house. So big bag of rice. That one's gonna stay up here. I got 2 of those, and that was just a restock. And so you're gonna see there's not a lot of variety here. Because we are bulk buying. So I'm not buying a ton of little things. I'm kind of stocking up the things that we use all the time and making sure I don't let those reserves in our one-year pantry run out. So this is dish soap, I think. Yeah, this is dish detergent. We do not have a dishwasher. I'm a fan of hand washing personally. So it's important to have a clean dish soap, since we use it every single day. So they have a Country Save. I don't know if it's the cleanest one on the market, but it's that happy medium where I feel safe using it and it fits in our budget. There is sometimes compromise that has to be made in this world we live in. So while I open this one, I'll share a little bit about my story. So when I was 26, I developed heart palpitations. Orthohyperstasis, which is when basically you sit down or stand up, your blood pressure shifts. And so I would get lightheaded and floaters in my eyes. And I would go get them checked. About every 2 years, these symptoms would kind of get really intense. And I would go get them checked. But back when I was 26, I got them checked, and it was like, oh, those are benign. Maybe drink less coffee, less alcohol. Like, that's all they ever said the first time. And I remember talking to my friend who was in nursing school and asked her, what do you know about this? And she was like, oh, it's fine. It just means you'll probably have heart problems when you're 50. And that really stuck with me. First off, just at how normal it was to say that, because actually that is the culture we live in. And, her being in the medical field, it was probably very common for her to see people in their 50s with heart problems. And that's what happens. It started when they were young, whatever it is. And then that's what it is. But for me, it just did not sit well, because I thought I don't want to have heart problems when I'm 50. That did not sound like the future that I wanted for myself personally. So every couple of years, that sat on me, but I didn't do anything about it. Every couple of years, but I think it planted a seed, which is important. Every couple of years, I would go wear the heart monitor, go back to the doctor, because it would ramp up and get really bad. Same thing. Yes, we see them. They're benign. Yada, yada, yada. When I was 34, 34, I went back, maybe 35, somewhere around there. I went back. Now, through that time period, I had children. I started to learn about what GMOs are, started to really care about things. I started making food from scratch, kind of like homesteading food. That's when I tried to eat a little bit of meat, like making, roasting whole chickens and then making chicken broth and doing a lot of that stuff. So I was getting familiar with those concepts. And then I also started a permaculture food forest kind of in my 30s. I would say when I was about 30. That's when I really started leaning into that. The Lord put on my heart to start preparing a little bit. So I was just getting familiar, like, how do you eat real food? How do we grow some of our food? I had a massive permaculture food forest, and I will be honest, I didn't know how to eat a lot of the food I grew. So it's one thing I hope to help you guys with is know how to eat things that maybe are a little less traditional if you're going to grow them. And how do you grow some of those things? Because they're super nutrient dense foods that we're unfamiliar with, way more nutrient dense than anything we can buy at the grocery store that has now become popular, like kale. So, can't get this box open, which gives me time to tell my story, but I also want this box open. So, you know, the Lord was just kind of working through my mothering and through exposing me to people. I was meeting people, I was learning. So I was just learning. I was breaking free of the systems I had been raised in and had been taught to think were normal, that are not normal. They're not normal at all. So around 34, I had a big ramp up in my symptoms. I had 3 young children, very busy. Went to the doctor and he said, you have anxiety, and wanted me to take anti-anxiety medicines. And I was like, well, I understand why these symptoms, because I had developed shortness of breath too at that point. I was like, I understand why the symptoms sound like that, but I don't feel anxious. Like my mind, I actually have a very peaceful mind, even today. Like that's just the thing for me. I don't feel stress in my mind. I don't run through ideas. I don't hold on to a lot of thoughts that, you know, I know that's a thing for some people where they can think about something and worry about it. I don't have that. So I was explaining, I know my body is physically responding as if it's stress, but I don't have any stress that I feel in my mind. So the two weren't coming together for me. And he was just like, oh, it's anxiety here, take this medication. So I decided that was not the path for me. Thank you, Lord, for putting that on my heart. And really just started to like dive even deeper into using food as a way to gain back control of my health. And so I purchased books. I was looking online. The internet was like a big thing now. I mean, I'm going to date myself here. I'm 47 now. Someone asked that on here. So I just had a lot more access. When I became plant-based at 14, there was no access to this stuff. There were no books. I might have found a book at a library. I don't even know how I got exposed to this idea. I just was always really drawn to plants. I always wanted to be a gardener. I loved that idea. It was not something I grew up around. Grew up in the country, chips, beer, barbecue. But it was starting to become a lot, you know, the internet was starting to have lots of resources. So I fell into the raw food rabbit hole and how people were using a raw food diet to reverse their health and to reverse some of these diagnoses that they were getting from doctors that no one really knew what was going on. So I started hearing very similar stories to mine. Okay. This right here, Herbal Home Healthcare. I also love Azure's books. They have a lot of natural healing books and options, and they are not loaded with like spiritual stuff or any weird stuff that you can often find in like herbalism books and things like that. They are just strictly focused on this. So I collect their books. I tend to get 1 or 2 every time I can, and just building a little home library for resources. I would do that. That's very, very important because the stuff back in 2020, it was actually like 2019. I was in the essential oil world. My old business was purse designer and bags for essential oils. And overnight, you could find so much information on the internet that was so incredible. And then it was like a light switch went off and it all disappeared. And it's already happening. The more AI starts to, like now, if you type into something, Google, AI is giving you the answer. A lot of the information we need, like the grassroots stuff, is not there anymore. So I collect these books because these are grassroots solutions to problems and can give you the tools you need. So this is one, I have not read this, so I can't tell you if it's good, but he has a lot of supplements on their site, and I have used a lot of his, not a lot, I have used a few of his things over the years. Yeah, like 90% of all disease comes from an unclean body. So, very good book. So I decided to try a raw food diet just to see. So I went on a raw food diet with another friend. We kind of did it together for 8 months, and it naturally supported, so I have to be careful what I say on here. I mean, it naturally supported the problem I was having with heart palpitations. It naturally supported the floaters in my eyes, and it naturally supported the blood pressure and the shortness of breath and all of that. I did not have those issues anymore. So that was amazing. Unfortunately, I didn't know what I was doing, and cleansing is a tricky thing. And so I kind of went from a raw food diet to just stopping that and was moving into eating healthier. Like I learned a lot of habits. So I was eating a lot of healthy food, but then I was also eating some regular stuff that I had always eaten as well. And so I ended up with all kinds of problems. So it's almost like whatever the underlying issue was there, I did a lot of work, but I didn't do enough. And it left this lingering piece that just like exploded when I went back to eating some of those foods. So they thought I had Lyme's disease. This one, healing adaptogens. I know most of these, so this one is just to have a reference on the table. Adaptogens are basically things that help your body deal with stress, deal with toxins, deal with all the things in our environment. And mushrooms are an adaptogen. So super herbs and mushrooms helps us restore our bodies and have great defense. These are things you should be eating and have in your diet all the time. So I just got this as a reference, and you know, there's some things like of course I don't know everything in this book. So I just wanted to kind of fill the gaps, and I don't know, fun read, good resource to have on the shelf. So they thought I had Lyme's disease. I made the mistake of falling victim, the medical industry has this way of creating a lot of fear. And when you turn things down, they have a way of almost putting out like threats. Like, well, then be prepared. If you don't, then this. And that's kind of what happened. I didn't want to take this super strong antibiotic. I wanted to wait for the test. But I went from like being able to run 5 miles to I couldn't even walk up my stairs. And so the doctor was saying, you need to get on this immediately because it could be too late, yada, yada, yada. And so I did it. And what that did was I ended up testing negative. I didn't have Lyme's, and that protocol killed my gut. All right, this one. This is not one you guys need if you're just getting started. I have probably 30 books from them. So I was actually just curious of this because I've actually never heard of that. And there is something I like to eat that has palm oil in it. And I was always curious if it was healthy or not. So this is just an entertaining read, not so much a reference. And I couldn't find it anywhere else, so I wanted to read that. So, killed everything good in my gut. I broke out in crazy hives, crazy rash all over my body. It was a complete nightmare. I did food tests, blood tests. I had to do all these out of pocket, by the way. I was going back to my main doctor. They wanted me to go to a rheumatoid doctor, and they wanted me to go to an allergist. He wanted me to take steroids, bleach baths, allergy medicine injections indefinitely. That one, the third one. And I was like, no, And so at the time I was actually studying to be an aromatherapist. Focusing on internal medicine was what I was interested in. And I called the girl I was studying under and I was like, this is what I think is going on. What are we going to do? And within 10 days, the protocol I used supported my body in a way that all those problems went away. Except for one little patch where it started on my calf, like on my inside of my calf, which I thought was so interesting because that stayed for a year, everything else. And then I finally got rid of that. So whatever that deep lingering healing that needed to happen, it took time. Salsa seasoning. My kids like to use this. It makes it great. I actually don't use this for salsa. I just use vegetables for salsa. I use this in like when I make meat for them for spaghetti sauce. We just like the seasoning. It's good. These are just to stock up so that we have seasonings. So I keep these in my long-term food storage. Onion is super important to have in a long-term food storage pantry because this is what makes food like beans and rice taste good. In the case of an emergency where you're eating a lot of that, which we just were, I was using fresh onion, but I was thinking that I'm going to run out. And if this doesn't turn around soon, we're not going to have any onion. I have some sealed up in Mylar bags in my long-term food storage, but I just added some more of those. After that, I really dove deep into changing my lifestyle on a much bigger scale. Stopped going to get advice from professionals altogether, like completely. Haven't been back since, actually, have I? And that's where I'm at right now. So now I do CrossFit. I've always worked out, but I'm strong. I feel better than I did when I was 27. I don't have all those problems I mentioned. I do not have heart problems at the age. I'll be 50 in 3 years. I do not have heart problems. I'm going to go through menopause and perimenopause or whatever you call that stage of life. Naturally feel amazing for this stage of my life where it's supposed to be such a demise for women. I do not feel that way at all. I feel amazing. And I contribute that to health and lifestyle. I don't do it perfectly. I believe like 90-10. There's got to be room. I love a glass of red wine. But do the best I can. I try to eat super clean, grow a lot of my own food as much as possible, eat a plant-based diet. That's what works for me. I'm not saying a plant-based diet is the right diet for everybody, but that is what works for me. Juicing is a huge one. I juice and I notice a massive difference in my health and the inflammation in my body when I'm drinking fresh juice at least 5 times a week. This is ghee, which is like cooked down. This is grass-fed, which is when you cook down butter until it's like shelf stable. I buy this for my kids to cook in. Because again, autonomy with food. I'm not saying just because I thrive with plant-based, it's the right for everybody. Obviously, my children eat cheese. We got 3 blocks of this mozzarella. This is an organic, grass-fed, and I'm putting them in our freezer. You can freeze mozzarella. And before I put them in, I will actually slice them into individual sizes. And I wrap them in parchment paper, not plastic, so I can get them out of the plastic. And we just store them that way. That gives us a lot of cheese. That was like a restock of the pantry kind of thing. If you watched The Blue Zone, great documentary. Purple sweet potatoes are super nutritious. If you get food from them in bags like this, bust them open because they do condensate and your food will go bad. I like to pull them out of the plastic immediately. So I'm just going to store them in my basket here. So that is my health journey. And I feel like it just gets better every year. I'm doing a lot more now than I was 3 years ago. And mostly because I'm growing so much of my own food that it's really easy for me to juice. When I was trying to juice large amounts of juice, and I've done many juice cleanses and things over the years, it's very, very expensive. And it's not now because I grow my own stuff. These are a red sweet potato. And yeah, doesn't mean I'm going to, none of us have a guarantee. We're We're in a very toxic world. And I've seen very healthy people get sick from things they shouldn't get sick from. So there's no guarantees, but it does ensure, I believe, like diet and exercise are super important. And obviously spiritual wellness being first as the most important, but they keep us thriving in our lives. So, you know, I kind of believe our time is our time and our story is our story, and that's not up to us. That's just my personal belief. But I can choose if I'm going to age and be strong and healthy, or if I'm going to eat poorly and not exercise and have to deal with the consequences that comes with making that decision. Sweet potatoes. I store a lot of our food here, but because we're running our fireplace, I'm gonna have to move it in some. So that's one box down. Let's see what's in this one. Cream cheese. These should have been in the fridge last night for my children. Colby. So I'm shredding a lot of this too and individually packaging it because shredded cheese has wood shavings in it as a filler. It's called cellulose or something like that if you read the package. The problem is, what wood shavings are they using? Because all the wood I know about is treated wood, which is very concerning. So we shred our own cheese. Again, for the children, I try not to eat cheese unless it's like a goat cheese or homemade. All-purpose flour. I have my bucket. I'm gonna make some sourdough today. So 3 of those. No, I only got 1 of those. They must have been out. Sometimes you'll order things and you won't get them because they run out. But I got 1. I thought I ordered 3. This is wild rice. Love to add that to regular rice to make it healthier. Black lentils, one of my favorite foods. These are one of the healthiest lentils you can consume. They cook super fast, so they were really great in the emergency. I was able to deliver food for some people. Big, huge pot, and it cooked up really, really quickly. The rice and beans and lentils and onions all cooked together really nicely. So I love these. One of my favorites. Okay, they have beef there and some meats. This is 100% grass-fed, and you want grass-finished beef. I also get it from our friend who's a farmer down the street, but sometimes it's just easier to order a box, and they have good quality. Will you put that in the deep freeze? Thank you. We only have one more thing. Oh, I did get a 6-pack of probiotic sour cream. I have 2 sour cream addicts in my house, so I like the probiotic one. It comes in this is the 6-pack. It's Nancy's Organic Sour Cream, and it's called Probiotic Foods. And these are my Ezekiel wraps. I'm so excited about these. So, I bought a case of these, and I'll store them in the freezer. But they are the Ezekiel bread, which is from the Bible on how to use different grains to make bread. But these are wraps. We are a big wrap family. Everyone puts everything I make into a wrap all the time. So these have wheat, barley, beans, lentils, millet, and spelt. And I think they're sprouted. Yep, they're sprouted first, which makes them easy to digest. They taste amazing. I'm actually gonna make a veggie sandwich for dinner with one of these. So I got a case of those. That'll last us, sadly, about a month. So thanks for joining me. I love sharing my passion for real whole foods with people, and I'm grateful if you're new here that you found my channel and have that same passion. You guys have been leaving amazing comments that you do, and I find that to be so great. And I just want to keep sharing like the things I did. If you want to know more about how I initially did my health, that was so many years ago. I don't even think I would share the protocol I used at this point. It was fine. But there's lots of different protocols out there now. There's lots of different cleanses, medical medium. Not that I align with the things he believes, but he's got some amazing cleanses. And I have seen people, and I'm connected to people through social media and through this network who've had tremendous experiences supporting their bodies naturally and overcoming a lot of big things by using his protocols. So if you have any questions about that, let me know. I will link his stuff below, his website, if you're interested. And I will see you guys on the next video.